Hi, welcome. This is Margaret Ann Lembo, and this is another month's worth of webinar for you at the Academy of the Spiritual Arts and for our guests today. So at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I recorded this I did this webinar. I presented this webinar, but I forgot to hit the record button. It's the first time, and I've done like over 30 of these. I think about 35 of these. And so I thought, how cool. This is a sign. It's a symbol. And I thought, well, what does that mean? I'm doing a webinar on signs and symbols and interpreting them. So one thing that it means is I just plain old forgot. All right, but why today? And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's time to do a giveaway, to do a gift. I have to re-record anyway, so I'm going to offer it to my mailing list. So I sent out 19,000 emails. Not everybody's going to have open it in the moment, so a lot of people who could get it for free won't, but at least those that happened to open the email had the time. In some ways, that's synchronistic as well, and that is a sign. In fact, one customer called into my store, the Crystal Garden, and spoke to my assistant manager, Caitlin, and said, it's so cool because, first of all, she was very nice and said the first link for her didn't work. So I resent another email. Odd, but true. But she also shared that it was wild, the synchronicity, because in the moment, she may not have used these terms. I'm just reframing because I didn't talk to her. In the moment that this email came in, she was just typing up a dream to send to someone she knew. So that's the way these signs and symbols work. We just don't know in the moment when the sign or symbol is arising. Sometimes the expression goes, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes it just is what it is. And other times they are messages for us to help us with our lives. So the signs and symbols that are presented to us come in so many ways, through the dream time, which is fabulous because there's so much that fodder for our interpretation. There's so much for us to interpret in our dreams. So we have also waking life images. And so what I share today is for both the dream time and the waking dream. And the signs and symbols and synchronicities that arise are often to help us with questions or thought forms that we've had in our consciousness. Our thoughts create reality. Our thoughts are being emanated, and we broadcast what we're thinking and feeling all the time. And whether people are conscious of it or not, the person, you, thinking the thoughts, as well as the person who might be nearby that happens to bring up the same subject you were just thinking about, that's synchronicity, yes. It's also telepathy and also the ability to interpret vibrationally what's going on. And that can often help us in our lives to make it easier. Because if you're wanting to understand something in your life, and you may even say, dear God, please help me to understand what this means. And then 2 minutes later, you get an email that says, hi, come, here's a free gift. Come watch a webinar on dream interpretation. Or the person next to you that was, not even talking about the same subject answers your question without even knowing that they're answering it. So as you can see, there's a long list of ways that the dreams and dream images and the symbols can appear in our lives, and that would be animals showing up in our life. And we're going to go over that. I know that I had someone write in about Cardinals, and I'll deal with that too. I'll answer that. The TV shows that we watch will bring us messages. Why are we watching that show in that moment that happens to be synchronistic, tongue-tied, in that moment to provide us with some answers. I know it happens for me often. I like to watch sitcoms, and I like to watch late night shows. With the late night shows, I often record so I can be awake to actually watch them. And I often get messages through that. Our plants and flowers, billboards that we see as we're driving. Many of you probably already know that billboards are not just advertisements, but also messages from the divine. Bumper stickers on cars, and even stickers on people's backpacks, on their luggage, on their windows. All that is providing symbols for us, as well as novels that we read and magazine information that comes through to us. So I have here a picture of a dream catcher with my little head sneaking in like a dream image at the bottom. That's me smiling at you tonight. So the dream catcher comes from Native American tradition, and it is fashioned after the web of a spider. And the way that the legend of a dream catcher goes is that the knots in the dream catcher will catch the bad dreams and hold them there until the morning light. And the morning light will dissipate and just dissolve those negative dreams. And all the rest of the dreams will come through the dream catcher and fall down to the dreamer below through the feathers. Now, this is a bit stylized, this particular dream catcher, but usually there's feathers hanging from the dream catcher, and I think that's what this is symbolizing. And images and dreams will come through. Now I'm just noticing, I didn't even notice it before, you can actually see there's images in these feathers. That's very cool artwork. Anyway, so here we have a picture of an angel looking over a child while they're sleeping. Now, this image has been near and dear to my heart my whole life, I think. I think this is a very old drawing or piece of artwork. It might have even been on some holy cards that I have when I was growing up. Now, I just want to bring to your awareness, if you don't already know this, that angels really don't look like this. The angels are beings of light. And we as men and women on the planet, as humans, have stylized them in artwork with wings because they can be anywhere, any place with just a moment's notice. So that wings are symbolic of flying and quickly to a place to be of aid. And being that these beings are stylized as humans is so that it's comfortable for us, so that if we were to allow ourselves to see an angel and we see it in our mind's eye or our spiritual eyesight as a human with wings, it's going to be more palatable or more comfortable to see them as that than perhaps an extraordinarily unusual light force that might scare you, so that's a wonderful thing. And I grew up with the belief system, and I hope you did too, and if not, know that it's available to you, with the belief system that I have angels watching over me while I'm sleeping. They're guarding me and guiding me. Let's see what's coming to mind just to say my little guardian angel prayer. Let's see. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide. So I know that there are questions coming in on the board, and I will be responding to those as time goes on. But for right now, I'm going to proceed with the webinar and then answer those towards the end. So angels can hear our thoughts. I said we are emanating, we're broadcasting thoughts, our feelings, and all that is our concerns. A lot of us have incessant chatter that repeats over and over again the things that we're worried about or the things that bother us or our fears and our concerns. Now, as a spiritual facilitator, as of someone who facilitates learning and that, I want to recommend to you that as soon as you notice that you're repeating these worrisome thoughts in your minds and you're visualizing even the worst thing that could happen, is to immediately transform and transmute that with your intention, and then immediately think good thoughts. And if you need to think about those things that are concerning you or contemplate how you're going to handle it, you could phrase it more like a petition or a prayer to the heavenly realm, and specifically, if you wish, to angels. Now, angels are messengers. They're messengers from God. They're like the go-between. They are closest to man, the regular angels. I say regular angels, messenger angels. To me, they're very regular. And they can bring messages and translate responses and provide us signs and symbols more easily than if we try to go directly to the source. You know, my favorite analogy to help understand this is the messenger angel is like a 120 voltage that we have as our plugs here in the United States, because I can't remember the voltage in the rest of the world. I know that it's a different voltage in European countries, but for the sake of conversation, 120 voltage. And so let's say that we have a plug in our bathroom where we plug our hair dryer in. Now you're thinking, what does this have to do with anything? But this is an analogy, a symbol, a sign, a way of understanding. And so to plug in the hair dryer, we just plug it into the wall, 120 volts, we got it. We can't plug and translate that electricity for our hair dryer when we plug it directly into the source, the power plant. We can't go to the power plant and plug it in there. We would blow ourselves, but we definitely blow our hair dryer. It wouldn't be able to translate. It wouldn't be able to. So we need to download. We need to bring it down to the point where we can comprehend and understand it. And angels are like that. They are the go-between between this amazing source of energy and information, the divine, the heavenly realm, and and ourselves, you know, as human beings. So angels are often dropping us these signs and symbols, excuse me, based on what our thought forms are, what's going on in our mind. And they're hearing and sensing, and especially if we're asking for assistance. They're not going to intervene if they weren't asked, because they can only divinely intervene if we request their assistance and their help. So some of the ways that these helpers assist us, you know, they might come with a feather. You know, dropping a feather in our path may mean that an angel is nearby. Or perhaps it means, and it could mean so many things, but so another way to interpret a feather in your path is take yourself more lightly. Relax, calm down. It's just a passing moment and everything will be okay. Or angels are all around you, watching over and lighting your path. You know, I put the coins here as a reminder to connect with pennies from heaven. You know, that expression, pennies from heaven. And so many of us have that a wonderful gift of having our loved ones drop pennies on our path as a reminder. I know I do. I remember when my dad was alive and he was losing his eyesight. He lost his eyesight back when he was about probably around 82. Well, it was diminished, macular degeneration. And he lived till 96 years old. So that's quite a while to have limited eyesight. Maybe it was even before then. So anyway, more importantly is he could always see pennies. He could always find money on the ground. It's like selective hearing. It's selective eyesight in his case. So anyway, as he aged, you know, he was pretty agile for many, many, many years, almost till the end, like to the last 6 months. But we had a staff over where his office was that would purposefully drop pennies on the ground outside where he would take walks, or even in the office, so that it would make him bend over as exercise. And it was always fun for him. It was like a game to find the pennies, and he would ponder, why are the pennies, you know, on the ground? Now, fast forward, it's to the day he's going to get ready to leave the planet. And the day he was getting ready to leave the planet, I didn't know till later, obviously, I went shopping for food for my animals at a pet store. And when I came back out of the pet store, I found pennies on my running board of my car. You know, at the time I had one of those Land Cruisers, you know, an SUV with a running board. And so I immediately thought, whoa, this is a little too freaky. This isn't just a penny on the ground. These are pennies on my running board itself. Now, one would say, okay, I dropped pennies out of my purse. Well, maybe. I doubt it, but it's possible. But in the moment, I did have the thought that Dad's trying to let me know that he's already going back and forth between dimensions, and this is going to be one of the ways he's going to communicate with me. And sure enough, later on that day, not much later, he passed away. So now whenever I see that, I know that it's a message for him. Now, with the paper clips, another good story, and this is just symbols of how, from the other side, little messages from our loved ones. Now, paper clips showing up in your life could also indicate that there's some attachment that you need to become aware of, or perhaps that you need to attach yourself to something. So it's a matter of interpreting it in relation to what you're thinking about and what you need information on. But this in regard to loved ones on the other side, and this could happen with even for a seamstress, somebody might, be more connected with safety pins. But this story is just about 2 weeks ago, a customer came to my every other week, I have a live meditation at the Crystal Garden, and the alternating weeks, I typically have it online on Blog Talk Radio. So just as a note, it's blogtalkradio.com/Margaret Ann Lembo. So if you want, there's recorded ones already in there as a gift from me to you. If you ever need to go online and catch a meditation, whether it's live or archived, you can catch it on that. That's blogtalkradio.com/Margaret Ann Lembo. Anyway, so she was at that event and she said to me, or maybe I think it was that event. Anyway, she said, I have to tell you the story. My dad passed away. And I'm like, yes. She said, well, when we went, we sold the property that was her father's, she said, we sold the property that was my father's office. And I just recently spoke with the new owners. And she said, I asked him, I said, are you having any experiences of my father in the building? I know because she knew he was open to that consciousness. And he said, actually, one thing that keeps coming up is that we keep finding paper clips all over the place in the most bizarre locations. And she said to me, and she told him, wow, that is definitely my father, because he had a thing about paper clips. He collected paper clips. He always had this huge collection of paper clips, and she had been experiencing paper clips in unusual locations. So we pay attention to those signs and symbols that might come across from people who are on the other side. So I know you're writing in on the questions board, so I will be sharing information there, and I will tell you, answer those as best I can in a little bit. So the symbolism of butterflies, and you may get an answer as we're going through this too. I'll read them later. So the symbolism of the butterfly is multifold. So from a very, generic way of explaining butterflies can help you realize that you're in the process of change and transformation, and that the transformation is going to be very beautiful. The change is going to be very positive, and it will set you free. You'll feel free like a butterfly. And so that is always a wonderful thing when butterflies show up out of nowhere in that regard. Sometimes butterflies are symbolic of loved ones visiting us from the other side. It's very individual. For example, a family member of mine, it represents her mother. Whenever she sees, especially the monarch butterfly, to her that means, oh, mommy's here. She'll say that even. And her daughter will say that too. She's like, oh, grandma's here. So it would always be a symbol in that regard. Now, does it have to be a live butterfly? No. Depending on the scenario, you might notice an example like this. You notice a butterfly. Okay, so it's a butterfly plant. There's a butterfly, just like it is what it is. And then later on in the day, somebody gives you a butterfly keychain, and you think, well, that's interesting. Okay, wow, I saw a butterfly today, and I got a butterfly keychain. And then you go to the grocery store, and you're standing online ready to check out, and the person in front of you has, very visibly on her back, a butterfly tattoo. And you're like, whoa, this is getting Freaky Friday on me. What does this all mean? So then you delve into your own consciousness. You go, okay, let me connect the dots. What have I been thinking about today? What has been on my mind? What am I trying to understand? And just like the example I said a few minutes ago, it could be a signal to you to relax. Everything's going to be okay. You're going through a transformational process, and you will be very joyful and happy on the other side and feel freer in your life. And speaking of freedom, the symbol of the Statue of Liberty here in the United States is symbolic of our freedom. We're freedom of speech, freedom to do and be who we are. And so if you happen upon a Statue of Liberty because of wherever you're traveling, maybe you're in New York City and you're you're going to see the Statue of Liberty in all the souvenirs all over the place. But it may show up in a movie, and then it will show up in a book you're reading that somebody climbed the Statue of Liberty, or somebody was in the New York Harbor in the novel and they went by the Statue of Liberty. The examples can go on and on and on. In the lower left-hand corner, you see a symbol here. It's a nest, and it's a nest with an egg in it. So, of course, in this one, it's a fancy nest that's meant on purpose. The nest is a home. So if you dream about a nest or you see a nest, and it's significant, well, especially if you're dreaming about a nest, that would be symbolic, more than likely, of your home, and that you're making yourself at home, making yourself comfortable, maybe building your own home. It could also be that if there's an egg in the nest in the dream, that it's showing that you're ready to give birth to something, or that you've started the process of the birthing process. Now maybe there's an egg that's being sat on by a bird in the dream, and therefore the bird would symbolize the you, perhaps, and then the egg would be what you're getting ready to hatch or give birth to. And that it takes time for it to incubate, so you need to sit on it to give it, nurture it, and give it warmth and what it needs in order to come to full fruition. So you just keep playing with the interpretation until you get to understanding what it means to you. And we could go on and on the nest, and also nesting. If you dream of nesting or you keep seeing nests, maybe it's indicating you need to be nesting yourself, get a little bit of relaxation time in. Or if it's an empty nest, it may be that you're concerned about if your children are grown and you're in your home by yourself or with just you and your significant other, and now it's the empty nest syndrome. And what are you going to do to nest for yourself to make yourself feel comfortable? How are you going to fill your personal nest? So then in the upper right-hand corner, we have this beautiful I love this imagery of, the lips and the frog. That's the prince. You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. So frogs in general, purification. Frogs mean being able to take a leap forward. If a frog leaps across your path, it might be just a frog leaping across your path, but it could mean, and especially if frog medicine keeps arising, keeps showing up in your life. I remember one year I had frogs that were every morning attached to my kitchen window, and then frogs every evening attached to my bathroom window. Different sides of the house, different sunrise, sunset. And so I, at that time, was making great leaps forward in my personal development, but also in my career as an author and a speaker. And then another way to look at frogs is also, it may mean that you need more water. You may need to take time to go in the bath or in a pool to immerse yourself for purification and detoxification and to become more fluid, because frogs require quite a bit of water and rain in order to be alive and jumping around and happy and healthy. And then here on the bottom right-hand side, we have a beautiful imagery of a bird arising from this flame. So this is to remind me to talk a little bit about seeing imagery and symbols within the fire. Now, I don't have access to fire ceremonies or fire pits very often, but you might have a beautiful fireplace, and you get to sit in front of a fire and watch a fire, depending on the time of year. And or maybe you have a fire pit in your backyard. And so take the time to really contemplate beyond just staring blankly at a fire, but to see if you do notice any symbols and if there's any meaning to it. Fires also have to do with having a fire, you know, that actual energy of fire available to you has to do with being able to go through a fire for transformation and come out the other side. I don't mean literally walking through a fire. To come out the other side transformed, that you may look like this one day and the other day your whole life looks another way. So the transformation of change, it's the energy of the south and the medicine wheel, help and healing of ourselves and transformation of ourselves. And here in this slide, we have the ability to see some more animals. And I think somebody asked something as owls. So we'll start there. Yes, I see that comment, Christina, about owl medicine. So I'll start with that. So owl medicine, which happens to be my primary totem, is the energy, and there are many, more than one webinar on shamanic journeying and also on animal totems already sitting in the Academy library to go watch. So if you're not already a member, that might be something for you to go check out. Okay, so owl medicine. Owls can see at night. They're predatory animals. They feed night. They do their capturing at night, and they can see in the dark. So that's just a very broad stroke of owl energy. One thing is if you hold the energy of owl medicine, or that you have owls appearing in your life, it may be signaling you to pay attention to what is right in front of you, but is somehow hidden. Like it's the ability to read between the lines, to see what others can't see, to see in the dark, to see beyond what's very obvious, and to use full peripheral vision. And that's not just physical peripheral vision, but using your spiritual peripheral vision to observe what else is happening around you. So often we're just like, for lack of a better way of saying it, like doorknob when it comes to having things in our lives, that we have signs and symbols all the time. In fact, we may be praying for help and attention, and we're asking, and it's being provided to us, but we're not paying attention to those signs. So owl medicine helps us to see who people truly are. One thing that it does is, like, if someone is, I'm going to be just who I am and say it the way I say it. If someone's like a liar, pants on fire all the time, but not people most of the time don't realize that they're just full of baloney, an owl medicine person will be able to see that, know that, and then if you're still new at it, I remember when I was still new at it, and realizing that I could see, sense, and feel, and it's not all the time, and it's only if I need to really know, then I remember it being really uncomfortable and thinking, why is this person lying to me? I feel like I want to say to them, do you think I'm stupid that I don't know that you're full of baloney right now? But that's a matter of being able to manage your signs and symbols and know how to be graceful with them. So I had to really work hard on that, and some days I'm better at that than others. Let's see what else I want to say in regard to this. This is a page I could talk about cardinals because we're talking about animals. And I believe that we have some animals showing up in these comments, but someone was nice enough to email me. So with that, Lisa, if you're on the line, you'll know that I'm talking to you specifically. So someone asked about cardinals showing up. Now, cardinals are red. So red energy is vitality. Red energy is taking action, moving forward, not being held back, letting yourself move forward and be self-motivated. So if it's a challenging time, which I think that's what the email said, if they show up in challenging times, that remember that how you focus and how you use your focus is to take the action, to do what you need to do to make it so, and know that you're going to overcome any challenges. I would look at that as a good sign to know that you'll overcome it. Now, it's also symbolic of because of the cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church that wear the red outfits, and they're called cardinals, is also that it might have to do with traditional beliefs. It may be a signal to do some prayer work. Doesn't have to be a religious kind of a prayer work. It could just be between you and God, in a non-religious or non-denominational kind of way. It could also be about paying attention to what's being said because they have a very loud whistle. And let's see if there's anything else. The female is not obvious. They look brown. They're not as gorgeous as the red cardinal. So if you're seeing the female cardinal more often than you're seeing the male cardinal, that could also be a symbol of be a little incognito. Don't be so obvious. Put on a different kind of cloak, so to speak, you know? And so it's just a matter of interpreting these signs based on your particular situation. The spider web here with the beautiful dewdrops on the upper left-hand side of the screen. Now, I think for me, I know that spiders, when they're in the web, are a sign for me to start writing. I need to get back to my writing because I'm an author and I write a lot. And that's how I can crank out so many products and books, is because I'm often sitting in this chair that I'm sitting at right now talking to you. I am sitting here writing. And that's why a lot of you that are local here in South Florida don't often see me at the store, because I can't write if I'm not in my office writing. But if I'm not writing, and I should be writing, so to speak, I don't like to shit on myself, but if it's a good time to be writing, I will start seeing spiders more often. If they end up inside my house even, which doesn't bother me at all, we just capture them and get them out. And I've gotten bit by spiders a lot in my life, especially, more recently, because I need to be writing more. Then I know I really need to get to my desk and writing. And so what does that have to do with anything? Why a spider and a web? Well, because the first alphabet was based on symbols that were shown inside of a spider web. It's how the alphabet started, they say. And so that's part of it. A spider web also has a symbology of the cords of attachment and the cords of connectedness that we have with others. So some of you who are Academy members listening to this know that in the library, if you haven't already seen it, go watch the cord cutting and the energetic ties webinar. And I will be having a CD with Findhorn Press coming out in 2016 on cord cutting. But we all have connections, and we don't want to cut all our cords of connections. We want to be connected, but there are also often connections to others that push our buttons. So it could be that if we see a lot of spider webs, with or without the spider, it may be having you check in about, are there attachments to others and from others that maybe need to be disconnected, maybe aren't so healthy, and also to be mindful of the beautiful, glorious love, heart-centered connections that you have with others, and how we're all interconnected. All life is interconnected. Here we have the horse, and horse medicine has to do with strength and tenderness all at the same time, endurance. What's this guy called? A snake. The snake is of transformation. It's a transformation and transmutation. The snake sheds its skin. I have my entrance to my home has these beautiful white, I think they're coral type rocks. I'm not sure. But anyway, the entrance is beautiful white rocks. And it's very rough. So over the years that I've lived here, from time to time, not a lot, but from time to time, I will find a snake skin. Not a snake, but the skin, the shedded skin, the layer. And it's symbolic, whether you find the snake or the snake skin it could be symbolic that it's time for you to shed some aspect of yourself that is no longer working. Let yourself release what is no longer for your highest good. Take a layer and go down a layer or up a layer in your consciousness to see your true self and connect. Snakes are, very much associated with the healing arts because of the caduceus. And then there's also the energy of a negative sense, depending on what's going on in your life, because every sign and symbol has so many interpretations. I'm doing my best to give you examples, but you could also say, been thinking that person was a snake in the grass, and here I'm seeing snakes now too. So it might be a symbolically, from a negative standpoint, that maybe someone is hiding who they truly are, and that expression of a snake in the grass. If you don't know what that means, do a quick Google search what that means. And then the other thing is like an ant. So ant medicine, if you see all of a sudden you're getting invaded by ants, it just could be that time of year. Or if you happen upon ants, it could be an ant thing on TV. It could be an ant thing that, like at the office, and then ants at the house. An ant's just walking around across your desk arbitrarily with just one. Ant medicine has the symbology of working together as a community, working in harmony with each other, and also the ability to pay attention to details. It's a very detailed path that an ant takes, and they're very connected with what they're doing and stay focused, very focused on what their job is in their community until it's complete. And they're actually quite strong. I think that there's an Ant-Man movie coming out. I remember seeing advertisements for that again and again. I guess I should pay attention to what that symbolically means. Looks like it might be a little bit funny to me, but I don't know if it's meant to be funny. Okay, so here we have, let's move to the mosquitoes. So let's all of a sudden you're being invaded by mosquitoes, you're getting bit by mosquitoes, you're in mosquito. Now, it could be that you're in an area where mosquitoes breed. But if it's a consistent annoyance, actually any kind of bug that is consistently, all these bugs all of a sudden, or insects are starting to show up, you would say, there's a lot of bugs in my life. What's bugging me? What is bugging me, and how do I release myself from allowing this annoying gnat, creature, bug, from constantly distracting me and affecting my life? The crow on the upper right side under the owl and it could be a raven, but either one of these are energetically often a call. To me, they call out warnings. Now, to you, it might mean something different. And then, of course, I will recommend, as I slap my books here next to me that I have ready to look up in case I need to, Ted Andrews' Animal Speak and Animal Wise are my favorite books to go to in that regard. To look up what are the meanings of that particular animal or reptile or insect or bird, and decide how, when you're reading it, what does this mean to me? All symbols have multiple meanings and will mean different things to different people. Here's a silly, very cute little lizard here on the bottom of the screen. And that's often symbolic of the dream time. Here in South Florida, we have lizards abound. So to see a lizard is very ordinary for us. But to see an iguana, yeah, it's common, but not super common. It depends on the time of year, and it also, from year to year, that we have a lot or we don't. I saw an iguana on the side of the road the other day. So there's, maybe some are coming back, but the fact that it shows up, I pay attention and pay attention to my dreams. Or in the case, we have peacocks in my neighborhood, and sometimes they're always crossing in front of my car when I'm going down the street. And other times I don't see them for a year or two. But when they're showing up, some people look at that as good luck. Another, for me, it has more of a connection of two different things. One is connecting with the Buddha, because in Buddhist tradition, it's used, peacock feathers are used for giving blessings, to spritz the water out with the tip of a peacock feather. But also the energy of the all-seeing eyes of the tail feathers, of the male tail feathers. And what is the other thing? Oh, to be proud like a peacock, to shine your light, to shine your magnificence, to show your beauty. Yeah, and we all have beauty on all levels. So here's a silly little picture here of this little gnome. And I was looking for someone reading a book, and this is the only thing I had in my picture library. But this was originally an advertisement for the Crystal Garden a while back. So this is symbolic of two things. One is to remember that the spirit of the plants have consciousness. They bring messages. They have varying levels, from food plants that provide us with food, to plants that provide beauty in our surroundings, as well as those that give us essential oils or herbal medicinal qualities that assist us in our life. But so a gnome is just one of the many types of elemental creatures or Davic forces that are usually invisible. I feel like I can sense them, but I don't see them unless there's a cute little statue like this nearby. But here he's reading a book, and that's a reminder for me to talk about that when we read books, there's often a message that will come through a book, a novel specifically. In this case, I'm referring to when we sit down and relax with a good novel, there will be messages that will come through. Back when I was writing the Essential Guide to Aromatherapy and Vibrational Healing, that's coming out in March. I'm very excited. It's all done now. It's delivered to Llewellyn. Llewellyn is the publisher on that one. And but I had, not only was I just immersed in my book for a year and a half writing that, but the novels that I ended up reading, which were far and few between at that point, because when I'm writing, I don't read a lot, were books on flowers. The books, one was, I think, was called The Language of Flowers. Now, there's The Language of Flowers that's a reference guide, but there's A Language of Flowers that's a novel. And so that was really good and perfect timing and synchronistic in my life, and helped me be in that vibration of tuning in to the vibrational energy of plants and flowers and the messages that they bring, and also from an aromatherapy standpoint. And then there were a number of other books that were along those lines that I happened to read at that time. So pay attention. Another book that I remember was really a profound novel at the moment was I went on a cruise ship, and we're going to talk about cruise ships in a moment as far as symbolic messages. But I was on a cruise ship, and I hadn't been on a cruise ship since I was about 10 or 12 years old, and this thing was massive. I didn't realize how large cruise ships were. Maybe you guys all know. And I hadn't been away into a place of relaxation in a while. I had been caregiving my dad for a very long time. He was still alive, so I was concerned about leaving the shore, and I felt panicky. I think I had like some level of a panic attack when I got on that ship, from the overwhelming size of the ship, but also from leaving the shore and being out on the ocean. And so that was me in that moment. And in that while I was on that ship, I had gone, of course, to the library and picked up a couple of novels to read. And the one I started was, I think it was a Jimmy Buffett novel. I think that was it. I don't know if I just made that up. I'll have to refresh my memory when I get off of this webinar and go look and see what novels he may have written. But the beginning of the book was when I was a little bit nervous, and it was about how he was experiencing the anxiety of leaving the shore for a long period of time and being out on the sea and not attached to land. So, a friend of mine the other day was telling me how she loved that when she was in Maine, the novel she happened to be reading took place in Maine, and it just related for her so much more than if she had read it in South Florida or where in another part of the country. So my point is that even messages from what book we just happen to be reading, synchronicity, bring us insight and information. Now, as far as the message of flowers go, flowers, do have specific meanings that have been said throughout the ages. And then there's, the energy of the essence of a plant in the flower. So in the case of this hyacinth, which is the upper right-hand side, this plant is something that I was drawn to getting, this flowering bulb plant. right after my mom passed away. Now, I'm using a lot of my own personal stories because it makes it easier to share and to give examples. Now, hyacinth, I just kept going to, it was like that spring. And my mom passed in January, and that spring I had kept going into Publix. At that time I lived across the street from a Publix, and just I kept getting new hyacinth plants. I wanted so many of them. So one morning when I woke up, I remember having the thought, look it up in the aromatherapy book, see what hyacinth essential oil is good for. So I did, and in the interesting tidbits section of that entry for hyacinth, it said that hyacinth essential oil, or the flower, was used with someone who was severely grieving the loss of a loved one. Well, wouldn't you know, how perfect is that? So we're also drawn to what we need, and symbolically, we might not even be conscious of how it's helping us in our life. I have a picture of peonies up here on the upper part, the pink and white and pink flowers across the top. And for me, that's symbolic of weddings and getting married. So someone else, a peony might mean something totally different. Sunflowers for me, which you'll see at one of the last slides, are symbolic of Italy and joy and happiness and shining your light. And, because when I visit Italy, I've had very beautiful experiences and see fields and fields of sunflowers. Gorgeous. I love it. For me, that means, it has to do with Italy, or memories of Tuscany and being in Tuscany with my cousins, etc. So we have to let these things translate to us personally. I don't really know if these are columbine, but these pink flowers on the bottom left-hand side, to me, they remind me of the flower columbine. Now, whether that's true or not, it in this case doesn't matter, because when I see that plant, when I see this picture, I think columbine, and then I think Colorado, and then I think that's the flower for Colorado, and then I think about all the visits I've made to Colorado and say to myself, so what about Colorado do I need to recall or contemplate at this time? Why is that symbol showing up for me? And that's how you do it. I don't know if you've ever seen that Jimmy Fallon segment. I don't know if you watch late night television, like I mentioned earlier, but Jimmy Fallon on occasion will do this series of, like, he'll say something and then there'll be a guy in the audience that will take that phrase and he'll say, hyacinth, hyacinth, blue, blue, the sky is blue, the blue sky, sailing in the ocean, the blue ocean, deep blue ocean, Ocean's 11. I saw that movie, movies, and then he keeps going and he keeps on going and going. Now I just made that up off the top of my head, but and it's all about, in a sense, word association and thought association, and how does this associate to me personally. Now, another way that you can receive messages are through the symbols of oracles, and in this case, a tarot deck. Now, whether you know how to read the tarot or not, this happens to be the Rider-Waite tarot, the most traditional one that's used especially for teaching. And so whether or not you know how to read the tarot, let's say that we take the lady sitting with the two swords, with the arms crossed across her and her eyes covered by a cloth. So first, that's going to be the symbol of something you're not seeing. And the crossed arms maybe you feel crossed or you feel cross by something. Now, I know that the swords have to do with mental, it's the element of air. So I would probably say, there's something bothering you that might have to do with, on your mind, that you can't see the truth. So when I look at tarot cards, which I don't very much anymore, but I always feel like it's beneficial to go with, what is the picture showing you? What does it mean to you? Yes, there are traditional meanings that you can memorize, no doubt. In fact, Trish Vidal teaches them at my store, the Crystal Garden. And so you have the opportunity to take courses on that, and I'm sure there's plenty online as well. But you can look at this, like here's the Ace of Cups. Ace beginnings, because it's number one. The number one is a new beginning. So as an Academy member, you can go in and listen to the numerology webinar. And so cups, that's an open vessel, you're receiving. So blessings coming in. A hand out of nowhere is holding a vessel that's overflowing. So that looks like a new beginnings for abundance, you know, as you're going to have good things coming to you. And so you just go on and on. Let me do the hangman, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So um, hanged man. So sometimes people go, oh my God, that's terrible. No, it means hang out, just pause, you know, just hang out where you are, just stay stationary, or maybe you're feeling like you can't move forward. You know, you're just left hanging. You know, it's all using the symbology and the word play. And we could go on and on for every single one of these cards. You can also, you know, move into oracles, which we could give you symbols. So if you're not seeing symbols in your life and you want some interpretation, you want some assistance from the divine, and you're not getting it in daily life, or you're not paying attention because you probably are getting it. Here we have all these different oracles that you can use. Now, the Voyager is a tarot deck. In fact, James Wanless is a very good friend of mine and the Crystal Garden. In fact, he was even at my wedding. He flew all the way from California to come to my wedding. And so the Voyager Tarot is the modern tarot. And the reason I like the Voyager as a tool for interpretation, and I don't even like to use it necessarily as an actual tarot deck, though it is very much one, modern. It's the symbols. Now, if we looked at the symbols in the sun, and you look at that as a dream image, and you say that all these things were in my dream, okay? So there's a butterfly, so that's freedom. There's a sun, a mask that's like looks like a sun or a sunflower, so that soon you will feel joy. You will be seen through the mask of joy, through the eyes of love and happiness and joy. Two people walking on the beach on during a sunset. You know, well, there could be some romance, there could be happiness. You might, you know, enjoy a vacation, or have you thought about going on vacation? There's a pile of money there. A pile of money to me means prosperity. The sun is shining on you brightly. Be happy, be joyful. And I could go on and on and on. So that's another tool for you to contemplate. And then there are oracle decks, not just by Doreen Virtue, though she has a gazillion, but also by many other authors like myself, because I have my original deck, the Angel Gemstone Oracle cards, and the one that's currently the remake of it, which is called the Angels and Gemstone Guardians card. So that's a two-sided deck, so you get double the goods. And then my new deck coming out called the Archangels and Gemstone Guardians cards. That's coming out in March. So the Color Your Life with Crystals photograph right here, that's a picture of my gemstone oracle. And so those of you that have taken my Angel Messenger Practitioner program have learned a little bit about working with the oracle pile of gemstones. But even the shape of a gemstone, the size of a gemstone, the color of a gemstone, all have significance, as well as the, you know, meaning that somebody wrote in their book, like I've written in my book, The Essential Guide to Crystals, Minerals, and Stones. So I'm going to pull a stone out of here to interpret. So let's say we choose this clear one in the middle. That's a Herkimer diamond. So that Herkimer diamond would mean to me that you're gaining clarity in life. And Herkimers often have to do with dreaming and the dream time. So that's perfect that I was attracted to that, because I'm talking about dreams in some ways, because these are waking dream symbols and sleeping dream symbols. And so it would be gaining clarity on interpreting symbols. How perfect. I didn't even do that intentionally. Now, as we move forward, and like as you can see, I'm a little chatty Cathy when it comes to this. We've got more to go. So here we have a symbol up at top that is just you know, say you're feeling lost and confused. Say you're not clear and you're trying to get answers because you want peace of mind. So sometimes we can look into the symbology of the dreams, or always, but when it arises that we have a car show up in our dream, the car is often symbolic of our physical body, our physical being here on planet Earth. So when we look at a car, the front of the car, that is the face or the eyes. The headlights are the eyes. If there's a problem with the headlights in real life, it might be maybe you need to shine more light on your path, or maybe you're not seeing something clearly. If the car breaks down, what do you feel like within yourself that has broken down within you? Do you feel broken down? If the door is open on the car, like in the left image, that little Fiat, that's the car that Vincent and I drove when I was on National Book Tour on the West Coast in the Washington State. If the door is open, well, then that's like there's an opening in your consciousness for you to receive something new. The tires are symbolic of shoes. And I remember growing up, my grandfather always used to refer to the tires of the car as the shoes. He'd go, when he was going to get new tires, he's like, I got to get my car new shoes. And so if the shoes or the feet, the foundation that holds up the car, if the foundation of what holds you up, either literally your feet or aching feet, or the challenge with like maybe you have lower back pain. Well, maybe you need to check out what kind of shoes you're wearing. Or maybe it has to do with that you don't feel supported, that you don't have the strong foundation you need in your life. And the symbology of using a car that shows up in a dream for you as a person and as a physical being is a very good place to start in interpretation in that regard. Now, the trucks. So this is here to bring up a few things. Now, when we're on the highway, we could have trucks go by that have signs or their logo on the truck, and that logo or words on the truck, as an advertisement, let's say, often means something. It can provide you with some clues. Sometimes a truck is just a truck that's going by you, but I'm going to give you, here's one example. Vincent and I were in Tennessee driving on National Book Tour, and while we were there, I was going to visit my friend who lived there at the time, and her husband had passed a year or 2 or 3 before, not very much before, still very, very much in the mourning phase, strong grief. And I was going to see her for more than one reason. I just knew that she lived near where I was presenting. I had presented at Vanderbilt University and another small local bookstore while I was in that area. And so I said, well, I know that my friend lives here. Let's go see her. So when we're just going over the Tennessee border, a truck next to me had the name of her husband, her last name, she's married, but her husband's last name on the truck. I thought, oh my gosh, Ed is like wanting to make sure that I, realize that he's very conscious that I'm going to see his wife. And that truck stayed driving next to us, even though I tried to like shift it because of the way traffic was, for quite a while. I felt like he was escorting us into Tennessee to go see her. So there's many ways that these messages come through to us in our life. And then there's also, like there's trucks that have a lion as their logo. So look up lion medicine, it doesn't hurt. May mean nothing and it may mean something. We don't want to go into analysis paralysis, but we could get a lot of messages. Now, if you're in a dream state and you're driving down a highway like this, it could show a couple of things. It could have to do with, are you looking forward to the future? Are you seeing the long journey and looking at the bigger picture? Like this is a bigger picture where you can see the horizon and the way is clear. Or it could also have to do with, indication of perhaps you'll be taking a road trip and to be mindful of that potential. So speaking of potential trips, here's that ship I was saying. Now, a ship on water or water in general typically is symbolic of emotions, the emotions. So if you're dreaming of being on a cruise ship, there's many things that you can interpret. One is maybe it's time for a vacation. Maybe it's time to have more fun, because usually cruise ships are about having fun and relaxing and taking time to rest. It could also mean that maybe take notice, is the water choppy or is it smooth? If it's smooth and flat, that means that your emotions are stable. And if it's a cruise ship, it's probably a more stable feeling of emotions. But if it's on a sailing boat like this that has less of a foundation and the water is a little bit more turbulent, perhaps there's turbulent emotions. Are there sails up or down? Is there a lot of white caps or not? So we look at all these, and these are keys to opening up our consciousness, to awakening aware of our awareness. And it's so powerful to use this because it helps us to know thyself, know yourself better, and to open to the awareness of the consciousness. And when we do that, our life becomes so much easier. We don't have to be struggling so hard, and we can be more rest assured because we have a sense of knowing. And we get many messages from the other side in the waking life and in the dream life, both. And so, I've had experiences in the dream time with my family coming through, specifically more my mother and my father. And they'll even make it emphatic, an emphatic meaning. There was one time I had fallen asleep on the couch, but it was like 2 a.m. and I heard an alarm going off, and I thought it was my husband's alarm, like to wake up, the kind that you set on your phone to wake up, and it was like a loud, it was bizarre. It sounded like what's the name? It's like the horn of a fire truck, not the alarm of the fire truck, but those horns they have. And that he didn't even have that phone anymore. That phone had fallen into my father's pool, interestingly enough. And what it did was it woke me up, and I realized my alarm in the house was going off. But by waking me up in that moment, I realized I was having a dream with my father where we were standing in the hallway at the entrance of the living room of we had a summer home. Our last summer home up in the New York area was at a beach community. And so it was a bungalow. And so I was at the bungalow with my dad, and he was glowing like this picture on the left. He had like light emanating from him, and he was translucent, but he looked like him as I knew him, a little bit younger, probably when he was probably in his 50s or 60s. And because remember, he passed when he was 96. And in the dream, we were hugging each other and exclaiming, I was exclaiming, I can't believe it. I'm getting to see you. It's so good to see you. Oh my goodness. It was like emphatic. And then the alarm went off. So the alarm went off to awaken me so that I could know he was there. Now, I would not be surprised if the magnetic energy of him coming through the dimensional frequencies was what set off the alarm, because I went back to sleep. We checked everything out. There was no reason for the alarm going off. And then we went into back to sleep, and in the dream, I tried to get back to see my father, because I'm sure you've done that too, where you're having a dream that you really like and you want to go back. Well, in that dream, I went back to see my father. I don't really think it was a dream. It was an apparition. It was an appearance. It was a visitation. That's the word. It's a visitation. And as soon as I got to the place where I was showing in the dream, I'm showing my husband, Vincent. I'm like, Vincent, look, this is where Dad was, right here. And as soon as we got to that spot, bam, the alarm went off again. So we left it off for the rest of the night so we could get sleep. And then the next morning, then we looked into it, and there was nothing wrong with the alarm system. We didn't even have to get a repair guy out. It was just my father visiting. He set the alarms off. They come in all different ways. So besides through like that dramatic thing, we may hear them in our mind's ears, in our spiritual ears. So in a clairaudient way, we may hear the voice of our loved one. It's a vibration, it's a sound. So it travels on waves, as you can see here, and also music that comes on the radio or that we happen to be listening to on, our various, it's not just radio anymore. We have so many tools for listening to music. So whatever the song is that may come up next might be a message in some way. That doesn't mean every song is, but one's of significance. There's certain things that bring back certain memories, so then you pay attention. What does that mean? So if at the exact moment that, well, here's one that has nothing to do with the loved one on the other side. So Vincent and I are in California. When I was out there, we were out there because I was filming a segment of a TV show. I was so excited. It was so cool. We were in Malibu. And my publicist that lives in LA met us at a restaurant for to have tea. She's from Great Britain. She's from UK, but she lives in LA. And so we met her for tea at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're sitting at the restaurant, and she gifted Findhorn Press gave us a beautiful frame, a Vera Wang frame from the Findhorn family, gorgeous. And as we're opening our beautiful picture frame, our wedding gift, our wedding song came on, the very old version of At Last, not the Etta James version, but another one, that was way before we were even born. And it's synchronicities like that help you become conscious of, how people's love for you. I feel the love for my Findhorn family, for the people at that particular publishing house are extremely appreciative of me and my work and who I am. And so that vibration of the song even surrounded both Vincent and I and my publicist. It just was a very special moment in time. So with those things, it just enforces knowingness, things that we know about ourselves and others. Now, we can bring through messages from TV shows. It happens to me all the time. I love sitcoms and I love late night TV. So often we can happen to watch a program, but even getting up in the middle of the night and we get to have this message that comes through a show that, we can't sleep because we're thinking about this, that, or the other. And a show comes on, and then as we watch the show, or even an infomercial, I've gotten messages from. A quick sip. I remember, this is a good one. I remember I was trying to decide on something. This is back a long time ago, because I was like, I would probably say maybe 10 years, it's more, maybe 20 years ago. I was worried about something, and I got up in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep, and I turned on television, and I was flipping through the channels, and I ended up catching a Tony Robbins segment. I'm pretty sure it was an infomercial, but the point at which I caught this segment was him talking to someone about how they were trying to decide what to do and whether or not they should do something. And he said, do this. Imagine you're 80 years old and you're sitting on a porch in a rocking chair, just rocking peacefully, and you're looking back at your life. If you look back on your life, are you thinking the thought, man, I should have done that. I wish I had done that. I woulda, coulda, shoulda done that. And I thought, whoa, how cool is this? I'm getting this message. So, I combined that with the teachings of my own father and my mother that was like, you don't know until you try something. So just do it. Just do it. That's why I do so many things, because I figure I'll try. If it doesn't work, then I'll just go on to the next thing. So we get these messages all different ways, including television shows, including the sense of taste and smell, our ability to taste and smell. So literally, we may smell a perfume. My mother's perfume was Chantilly. So I'm giving you a lot of my personal life here, but it just gives good examples so you can relate it to yourself. So if I happen to smell something that is Chantilly or smells like Chantilly, I know my mother's nearby and is supporting me in my life. And that makes me feel comforted. It makes me feel good. Or I'll purposefully wear Chantilly on a day that I want my mother's support in my life, that I have plenty of it. And then the apple pie as an example is like, say in a dream that you dream of an apple pie. Now that can mean so many things. It may be about that you need more nurturance, some good old home cooking. It may be representative of your Aunt Jerry, and that you want some Aunt Jerry's pie, and Aunt Jerry means such and such, or what if you sat down with Aunt Jerry, what would Aunt Jerry say in this matter? And then it would bring you the message and help you as a sign or a symbol. And it's also the sign of, all American, good old apple pie, and all American dessert. So maybe tonight we're going to want apple pie and vanilla ice cream. This is the second time I'm seeing that apple pie today because I had to do this webinar twice for you. I'm happy to do it. So the roses, I think of a friend of mine who used tea rose perfume. So if I smell tea rose or rose perfume at all, period, it makes me think of her. It makes me think of her mother who wore the same perfume. So then I think to myself, does it mean just to pay attention to that? Or does it, is it just a symbol of a nice memory? Or does it have a symbolic, well, during that time of my life that I was very close with her, I learned I became a PADI, certified scuba diver at that time. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm no longer certified, but maybe that has to do about delving into the depths of my own emotions, or maybe it's to remind me of what made me take that certification. What was it that drew me to doing scuba diving? So we just take the symbols and interpret them based on our own personal life experiences and our come from place. Violets mean different things to different people. It's a symbol of my mother. I still grow African violets. It's one of my specialties. So we have different ways of interpreting. Look at that. So during this thank you for attending part, for the benefit of the recording, I'm going to interpret some of these questions before we finish. So in a dream, there was a wall of closed curtains. And I believe that this is one where if it's just closed curtains, that means you can't see on the other side. You can't see beyond. So a closed curtains might have to do with that you feel like either something is not available to you and there's a wall that's preventing you from going forward, or that you're perceiving that there's a block of some kind, or you can't see through the window, which means can't see through to the other side. In the dream, I was looking in my window. A man was looking in the window. I went to open the window and ask what he wanted, and he was gone. So it depends on the emotions, too, on that one. This is Debbie, if you're still on the line. So you may want to type in, if you were fearful, then that would mean one, maybe that there's something to be concerned of someone who's being a nosy situation. If it was just a curiosity, like, oh, what do you want? Then it may be that to open the window is an opening of an opportunity. But then you might feel like you missed the opportunity because then he was gone. So it's like, are you feeling like you're missing opportunities? And it would depend on the time of life you were in at that moment in time. Okay, so Tina, see a lot of hearts and clouds and flowers and food. Whoops, why is this paused? Oh, because of it doesn't matter. We'll do that. That's my antivirus making sure that I'm covered. Oh, so seeing hearts and flowers and food and everywhere in clouds, I would just say that it's a reminder to see the positive in life if you don't already see it. If you're not already seeing all the wonderful blessings, it's a reminder that you are loved, that you are being gifted, the visuals of showing that you're being surrounded by love. And feathers would also indicate similarly, because it's like, there's angels all around you. You're being divinely protected and divinely aligned. Very cool. Good for you. I have a friend that I think he wrote a book called I See Hearts, or Boy Sees Hearts, or something like that. I think his name is Eric. I can't remember his last name, but he actually published a book and everything on it, but he saw it in everything, hearts everywhere. So this one says, I had a dream about a magical book which opened up, and a small ramp from outside to inside appeared on the right side, and a car moved up the ramp. I was studying about someone but can't recall name. Then some entity said to ask 25 questions. A psychic was with me and offered suggestions. I couldn't come up with many more about the entity than anyone else, like, have you passed over? and I was too straining and too awake to let it flow, so I woke. Okay. So we can take this a piece at a time. A magical book. So this is a book of knowledge. It's magical. It goes beyond the ordinary. It's metaphysical, beyond the physical, because magical and metaphysical are similar. So on a higher level, or beyond the physical level, now all of a sudden it opened up and a small ramp from outside to inside appeared on the right side. Right side usually has to do with taking action, moving forward, more the masculine vibration, and a car moved up the ramp. So the car, here we have the car, it could be symbolic of you. So you're moving up, you're going up to the heavenly realm, up to the divine, up to beyond the physical. And sure enough, you were studying, and then all of a sudden some entity said to ask 25 questions. So it's like you have the ability to go, I would say, even to the Akashic records. It's making me think of the Akashic records to ask questions. Now the number 25, 2 and 5 is 7. So remember, there's a numerology course in the library. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 is the is the chakra system. So it's knowing that you have access to all the information within your own consciousness because of the 7 chakras. We have it all available to us. So beyond the physical is still within you. The Akashic records are within. A psychic was with me and offered suggestions. I couldn't come up with many. So I don't know about the passed over part. And it sounds like because at that point you were straining, it was like that's sort of the end of it. I'm not sure what that part means, other than you were trying to determine if it was a living person or someone who was on the other side, but the entity would be already on the other side. So I'm not sure about that one. Cool. Let's see. Christine, I counted owls, crossroads events. Okay, so I answered that about the owls during the webinar. I'm always finding dimes in random places. Now that could have to do with money, like being able to, it could be a symbol that, okay, a dime is 10 cents, a dime on the dime in time. You can, there's expressions to do with dimes. So I would look up, I would Google expressions, or what's another word for an expression? There's a terminology, quotes with dimes in them, and see if that rings any bells, just like ringing a bell is an expression. But also that might have to do with if you have a loved one on the other side that wants to bring you messages or help you to, you have here further down, how would I know who it is from? Yeah, that has to come from within yourself. That would be a matter of if you have a loved one on the other side that you feel like perhaps is actually trying to bring a message through or wants you to know that they're around. Now, to finish Dina's question, I says, I also see the number 29 repetitively. So 29 could have to do with a day of the month. 29, if you take that numerologically, 2 plus 9 is an 11. 11 has to do with awakening of consciousness. So again, there is a webinar on numerology in the Academy of the Spiritual Arts. So you might want to read about 11 in a numerology book like what is it called? Numerology in the Divine Triangle, and also in when you stop by the Crystal Garden, there is books on 1111. I don't know if you're local, Dina, sorry. So if you're not, go to your local bookstore or go into the library, and there should be books on the 1111. So Jacqueline, nice to see you here. Rabbits, I love this. Now, if there's something that's been on your mind that you're trying to decide if you want to take action, or if you should wait, rabbits typically, and this is according to Ted Andrews, he shared this during a webinar, not a webinar, sorry. He was live and in person at the Crystal Garden before he died. So rabbits can often be the symbol of just to pause, just to stop and do nothing. So count about, it's usually based on the moon cycles, 28 and a half days, approximately 28 days. So think about the very first time you started seeing the rabbits. So in the past few weeks. So it could be maybe 2 weeks ago. So maybe at the new moon you started to see, because now I think we're in a full moon. So we are probably at the new moon right now. Might want to see and like wait until the next new moon before you take action or make a final decision. Rabbits also could be symbolic of that you have unlimited creativity, which we all do, but to remind you of that, that you can create, they're creative energy, they're prolific, that you are prolific. Rabbits are prolific. You are prolific. One let me get quite close. How cool is that? Let's see. I hope that helped, Jacqueline. Let's see. I have an area in my house that gets overwhelmed with ladybugs. I love ladybugs. Well, one thing is that it could literally have to do with this lots of aphids, and they love to eat those. It could also, on a very generic basis or a very mundane level, could be that there's a ladybug nest that is right in that part. I know. I wouldn't mind some ladybugs in my own life, but in my own life, ladybugs means my mother is having a visit with me, that my mother wants me to know she's thinking of me. Ladybugs, when I was growing up with my mom, would always mean good luck. And she'd say, if a ladybug landed on me, she'd say, make a wish, Margaret Ann, and then blow gently on the ladybug. And I would do that. I'd make a wish and then blow the ladybug away with my wish, and it would bring me good luck. So that's my story. Okay, so this person already left. This person says, let's see, Gina says, been dreaming of symbols. The first type of symbol was 7 to 8 small circles in a straight line up and down, and there were 3 or 4 of these symbols next to each other. Well, small circles in a straight line. They weren't overlapping, I'm assuming, because you didn't say they overlapped. So circles, the circle of life, the circle of the never-ending, movement up. If there was 7, it could have to do with focusing on realignment of your own energy, your own chakra system, your own connection with the divine. And then next to each other. I would also, you could also ask yourself, are you going around in circles? Are you not getting anywhere and just staying, round and round in circles you go? Or are you feel like you're making progress? Or are those symbols symbolically taking you up to the next level? I don't know. It's hard to say unless we're in conversation, which I can open the lines after I take this off a record. One little bit. Somebody left a nice comment. You have no idea how this webinar is just what I needed today. That's good. Another type of symbol is octagon, 8 shapes. So you might want to read about what 8 means in numerology. But the first thing I will say is 8 has to do with the infinity sign and the infinite possibilities. Okay. And this person has left. Okay, so this one, I'll still share it though. What do cats trying to attack you in dreams mean? So there could be a fear of cats, or that someone's being catty in your life. So if it could also mean that you need to be more flexible, so that because cats have to do with flexibility. So I would recommend looking up what cats symbolically mean, but animal medicine. So my husband keeps having a recurring dream of shooting a basketball, but he can never reach it. He kept trying harder and throwing the ball up to the net, but it could never reach it. It was as if his arms were too short. So on some level, he feels like he can't make his goal. He can't reach what his intentions are. He may feel stymied, or that something's holding him back from being able to score, to win the game, make it so. So it may be a matter of having him imagine if he wants to overcome that challenge, because we can also work with dreams and overcome a challenge. He might want to imagine even an waking state, that in his imagination, making believe that he's back in the dream and that his arms are as long as he needs them to be, and that the basket gets into the basket. The basketball gets in the basket, and then see what comes up as far as if he feels like he's not achieving his dreams of some nature. Gabriella sees doves. Doves have to do with peace and harmony and the Holy Spirit and the inspiration. Essie, let's see. My goodness, there's a lot of comments in here. I had a dream where I was driving through familiar places very quickly, rushing. Then I got to a set of doors and started opening them, while one door led to another. The last one was locked and I had the key. When I opened it, I woke up. I couldn't see what was behind the last door. I had anxiety feeling throughout the entire dream. Well, it could be that you feel like that you're I don't know how long ago this was, Essie, but you might have been in a set of circumstances where, it's like you do one thing, you have to get to the nether, then you get to the nether, and you just keep going and going and going without a rest. And then when you finally get to one that even though you had the key to get through, then you woke up and couldn't see what was behind the door. What that does is it makes you feel like incomplete, that you just can't see where you're going to. You maybe keep opening these doors that appear to be opportunity, but it opens to another door and it opens to another door, and that can get frustrating. So you may be that you're feeling frustrated in life, that you feel like that maybe opportunities get presented, but that you just have to keep, that it's a struggle. So you may want to contemplate what you want to do about that. Do you want to attract the ability to know what's behind the other door, and maybe even go back into this one and imagine that literally you use your imagination, make it up, then you get to the last door that has the lock on it, because you were able to unlock the door. You just couldn't see what was on the other side. So you have the key. You have the ability to open the door and get to the other side of that, what may appear like a challenge, but you can do it. You can get through and you can get your answers. So you may even try making believe that you open the door and go to the other side and see what comes to you, what jumps in your consciousness. And even though you feel like you're making it up, it might be a clue. And then journal around it. Journaling with any and all of these things are very, very helpful. I have a dream like big cat cougars, like we were trying to protect or rescue them from danger. Okay, cats, cougars of any kind of, cat family, felines, often have to do with flexibility, and that maybe you feel like it could be that if you're too flexible or too vulnerable, that maybe you'll need to be rescued, that it might be dangerous to be flexible and vulnerable. I'm thinking. Let's see. My daughter has a recurring dream of being in the middle of the ocean by herself. She might have very strong feeling overwhelmed by emotions, and that's as if she doesn't have support, and that she doesn't have the support she needs with those emotions that she's experiencing. Whether it's because of her friend's situation, that's not saying that you're not supporting her. I don't want you to feel nervous about that, but maybe she feels like she's alone and she's the only one that has these feelings. Whereas once we get older and wiser, we realize we all have these, intense challenges. So that she might need some reassurance that many people go through this. Go through this experience of emotions, and that we're never alone. Enjoy your webinars. That's good, Carol. Thank you, Carol, for saying that you're looking into membership again. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So then if you wanted to join the Academy of the Spiritual Arts, this is just some of my goodies. There's a Bye Bye Buggies is fun. That's newest. That's great for what's bugging you. We found out recently that my blend that I intended as a natural bug repellent, which it is is also very good for setting boundaries and getting rid of feelings of being annoyed by others. What's bugging you, you can spray that. It's also an excellent room deodorizer. It smells so good. So if you wanted to join the Academy of the Spiritual Arts, it's $20 a month, and you have access to over 30, I think it's about 34, 35 webinars, and I do a new one every month. So for those of you that join now, Mamma Mia, you're going to get a big value. And I'm glad that I was able to offer it for free. I decided, why not share this with everyone? Because I got the sign that if you have to redo it, you might as well let more people listen to it. So I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all for attending, and I'll go ahead and see if there's other questions. I can open a line or two. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody.